Hey, what's going on, guys? Amir Baluch from the Side Hustle MD Summit. I hope you guys are enjoying all the episodes. This one's going to be a very special one for me because, as they said in the past, let food be thy medicine. A lot of you guys that know me personally know that I was also a personal trainer and specialist in performance nutrition. So we're actually going to talk about nutrition and your food and how you guys can probably make 2 to 10,000 a month pretty much passively with some meal plans. And we have our special guest here, Jennifer Maynard, who's CEO and founder of Nutrition for Longevity, also known as N4L. So Jennifer spent over 2 decades in the field of biotech and pharmaceuticals. And, she pursued to try to make a change for the better in human health in general. But she left her career in pharma to pursue a passion for food as medicine. So she believes strongly that by addressing what we put on our plates, when we address those things, we can truly fight chronic illness. And I agree 100%. So Jennifer, thanks for taking some time out to help educate physicians on what you guys do.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So, you've been a part of multiple Fortune 50 companies, big biopharma companies, great career, and you decided to branch off and go into this nutrition field. Can you tell us what prompted you to do that and how did you decide to make that change?
Yeah, so for myself, I've always lived a pretty holistic lifestyle in the sense that I eat healthy, mainly plant-forward diet, I exercise, and I just felt like as an industry, we weren't doing enough with food as medicine, with lifestyle change. Science has already shown that 80% of that 80% of chronic illnesses can be impacted by lifestyle, but the industry as a whole is kind of leaving that to the side. And what I felt was missing was the scientific backing that could legitimize it and have people take it seriously. And there's so much misinformation out there in the food industry. I felt it was important to take my knowledge from pharma and biotech and say, okay, how do we bring nutrition to life and lifestyle changes to life and make it really stick for people, make it really easy. People have a preference for, I just want to take a pill and an injection because it's quick and it's easy and it's not intrusive in my life. We want to make it just as easy to eat healthy and have an active lifestyle. So I had a personal experience with my father-in-law. He was type 2 diabetic. I saw his health just spiral out of control. I was living in Switzerland at the time. He came to visit and he said, they're going to put me on insulin. I said, they are not going to put you on insulin. We are going to change this. And I saw within just a few months, his life completely transformed with just putting him on a good meal program and getting him exercising, just walking on a daily basis. And he's now remained at a pre-diabetic stage. And it was such an easy thing with him getting the right coaching and support. And I already had this mission to do this. I literally quit my job and like 4 months later started the company. So it was that final push to push me out of my comfort zone and do what I knew was the right thing to do. So that's what kind of had me jump into this space.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you definitely got to have a passion to, make that type of a jump. So, you're working with so many doctors now and you're working on all these studies and getting great results. My question is, when you speak to other doctors, all doctors, especially primary care, they want their patients to do well, but they're struggling. I think especially even after COVID, people are even more overweight, even more sick, maybe even more sedentary. What are some of the biggest issues that doctors are getting to, get patients to actually take some actions, and how does N4L help with that?
Yeah, so that's the number one thing that I hear from the physicians community is I tell my patients and I try to explain to them that it's important to make these changes. I saw that directly with my father-in-law. His doctor had been telling him for years, you're pre-diabetic, you're more severe diabetic, like you got to make a change. And he was really resistant. I see 2 reasons. We hear 2 things. One is that the barriers are really high, and there's a lot of reasons for that I'll talk about in a second. 2 is they just don't have that support to understand they are empowered with nutrition and exercise to control and really take their health into their own hands. I think when people are diagnosed, I worked in the oncology space for a long time. And the number one thing we saw when someone was diagnosed is it was almost crippling to them to do anything about it. They felt very much at the mercy of their disease. So we really take a step back and help people understand this is your disease state and this is how you can transform it and be empowered to change it. And that's where we really see it shift for people. It's hard for a doctor to take the time out of their day and sit down for 2 to 20 hours to just explain the disease state. So we try to take that burden off and say, we're going to start with ground zero and help your patients get to that point and understand how food and exercise impacts their body and how they can be empowered for change. And if you look at what's driving that, I mean, there's so much working against people and so many people are trying. I don't see it as a lack of effort from patients. I'll see somebody that's severely obese in the grocery store and everything on their checkout aisle is like a low-fat food or a fat-free or this or that. They're trying and they're spending a lot of money on it, but it's just not effective. And if you look at how the human body works in the brain, when we're under stress and when we have anxiety, which a lot of times triggers food consumption, it's triggering this emotional response. It's triggering our amygdala to start this cascade, which eventually ends cortisol, which is released in our body to cope with the stress. And cortisol literally tells us eat salty, sugary, fatty foods, and then unfortunately rewards us when we do with serotonin, so we feel happy. So our body naturally has this great cycle that actually works against us, and the food industry plays on that, right? We have tens of thousands of food scientists that design food to go past the bliss point. So it's really hard for your average person to get out of all these vicious food cycles. And that's what we try to do is cognitive behavior coaching, different things that give people the right infrastructure, support system, daily reinforcements, and education to pull them out of that. And then on top of it, we send them their meals. So it's kind of creating this no excuses, make it super easy program. And then we are doing that in support of the doctor so they don't have to do all that because nobody has that time. You know, practices are under more pressure than ever before to see enough patients and to get that return on investment. So we try to collaborate and say, let us do the nutrition. We're really good at that. And you guys do all your great work, you know, keeping people healthy and doing the diagnosis and the support system. Together, I think it creates the perfect pairing.
Yeah. Now, when these patients jump on these programs, you get the meals, you got the dietitians on board, and I think you even have like a 12-week training program. Mm-hmm. How soon before people actually start seeing changes? Does it take 12 weeks? Does it take a year? Or how long does it take?
So we see the biggest changes in the first 2 weeks. So we first hear from people, I don't really like plant-based diet, and we're not just a plant-based diet, but it is a very plant-forward whole food diet. And so they're not used to that. You know, only 1 in 10 Americans are getting enough fruits and vegetables. So we know it's a big shift for people. But their taste buds reset entirely in 2 weeks. And we literally see that major shift in, I'm actually tasting what a vegetable tastes like without a ton of salt. I'm actually enjoying herbs. And we start hearing that. A lot of people will say, I've heard it probably 10 different times, I never thought I would like kale, but I really enjoy kale now. So we start to see this behavioral shift and people starting to appreciate food. Then at about 3 weeks, we actually start, especially in our type 2 diabetes program, major shifts already where we need to start taking medication down. So first, usually we see some of the heart health medications coming down. Then we start seeing some of the diabetes medication coming down. So those are obviously incredible transformations we start to see. And so what's really cool about our program is week over week they're having these small wins. We see on average a 1.2 pound weight loss without any calorie restriction. So we're not big advocates of calorie restriction because we know in the long term that slows the metabolism. So we like healthy weight loss over time. And people start seeing that. And it's all coming from the waistline, or the majority of it. So all that unhealthy fat around the waistline, people are starting to see themselves go down on their belt sizes, and they're really excited about that. So we start to really see the transformation very early, and then it just continues. Like when somebody's on a blood glucose monitor, for example, a continuous blood glucose monitor, and they see their time in range data, it's almost a flat line. And we have 98% of our population that was in our last study hovering below the threshold that we set. So, and it was almost a straight line, whereas normally you see people really fluctuating there. So we know we stabilize the blood sugar very nicely. It's a macronutrient controlled diet, so we're able to do that. And we're not a low carb diet, because most fruits and vegetables are carbs. We are a starchy and processed carb restricted diet. So it's mainly whole food, low processed or minimally processed. We don't have any artificial sweeteners, additives, fillers. We don't have a lot of sugar in the diet. It's all natural sugars. So with that, we start to really take that out of the diet, and we see even inflammation biomarkers start to come down pretty quickly.
Yeah. I was actually about to ask if you're not restricting the calories, because most people say, hey, it's calories in, calories out. Who cares what you eat? That's what a lot of people actually think that. But without changing the calories, you guys are getting weight loss, especially in the right areas. What's the science behind that, do you think? I'm sure inflammation has to be a big part of that.
Inflammation, it's getting people out of the addictive food cycles. So when we start to go down that path of the cortisol, the serotonin, eating all these different processed foods, we start seeing insulin resistance, we start seeing leptin resistance. So your food cravings go through the roof, and it's continuing to tell you to eat these foods that are very calorie dense in an unhealthy way. So what we try to do is shift people to healthy calories, and we actually aren't, like I said, we don't restrict the calories, but we have lots of high fiber calories. So it's very satiating, and people feel full much longer. So they're not snacking as much. They're not craving these really unhealthy foods. So we do it through a lot of fruits and vegetables, and we do a lot of it through kind of almost tricking your average person. So we have faux meats that we design in-house. They're incredible. A lot of people don't realize we don't have pulled pork on our diet. We don't have ground beef, but we put in a lot of these extra vegetables, and we have your average person enjoying these plant-based items. And then we have chicken and fish and also vegan diet. And we also have removed gluten from the diet, so we're a gluten-free diet just as a baseline. So part of it is those inflammation markers coming down. Part of it is the satiation from the fiber and starting to pull you out of those vicious cycles that cause us to really crave food constantly. Because, in our modern food and modern environment, we're exposed to food pretty much 24/7. And we don't get on these rhythms. The other thing that we do in our program is we try to get everyone onto a circadian rhythm intermittent fast, so their body gets in a healthy cycle rather than these other cycles that are not healthy. And once their body starts to get in a rhythm, we start to really see results in an incredible way.
Yeah. And some of the things you said now that, because I've tried this food now for like the last 3 weeks, and, I definitely have my favorites in there. But like you were saying, when I eat this food, I was surprised I wasn't like picking up some protein bars in between. I was actually full, and it did feel like it was almost like a farm to table experience. Like literally somebody just picked the food up from the backyard and cooked it for me. So that's been very cool. Do you guys have like some in-house special chefs that are making it? Because I know when I had the vegan tacos, I didn't even know what was in there. It looked like it was meat, but I know it's not.
Yeah.
But it tasted great. Who's behind all this? Like, how are you guys how are you guys designing the food and the flavors?
Yeah. So one thing is, our starting point of most of our produce is we have our own regenerative farm. So we farm it all organically, regeneratively. It's really phytonutrient rich. Our seeds that we select are from longevity regions across the globe. And we also select, we kind of say it's micronutrient balanced as well, because we focus on color spectrum. So we bring in a lot of purple vegetables and orange and yellows and things, so they get this broad spectrum of phytonutrients. And then we macro balance it with the protein, the carbs, the fats. So it's designed by what we're growing on the farm, so it's highly seasonal, and we literally are harvesting it and sending it right into production. So it kind of is farm to fork in that sense. And then we have a team of dietitians and a culinary team that's all they do is every single meal is analyzed through our software to make sure it hits the macronutrients for a specific disease indication or a baseline diet. It runs through the longevity diet macros and then whatever leading guideline there is for that specific indication. So once it goes through that, we do tons of taste trialing. So we have an expert vegan chef. She's designed vegan ice creams that are on the market all over the place. She really polishes the dishes. And I will tell you, I've been personally called by several vegans chewing me out that we have pulled pork that we snuck into the dishes, which I can assure you we don't have, but we use different products that are actually mainly, well, they are fully plant-based that really trick the flavor, the texture, and we get really good feedback on that. So again, we have fully plant-based vegan, but we also have pescatarian, so fish-based, and flexitarian, which also adds poultry. But overall, people get a good experience even if they're eating the vegan dishes. A lot of people don't know it. So that's what we try to do is how do you get someone eating more plant-based, but they're still getting their comfort foods. Like we have a vegan mac and cheese that people rave about, and it's 100% vegan and actually really healthy. So people can eat their carbs, but they're healthy carbs. People can really enjoy these balanced meals, different dishes that they may never be able to make themselves because we have a whole culinary team designing them. And we try to always balance them with different dishes from all the longevity regions. So every single dish is inspired by a longevity region. So like Nicoya, Costa Rica, Loma Linda, California, Sardinia, Italy. So people can pick and choose their favorite diverse types of dishes so we can really appease a very broad spectrum palate.
Awesome. Well, yeah, after this call, I definitely want to see how I could get on that taste testing panel so I can get some free food from you guys. So, anything new?
I taste trial it every week, and I will tell you, like, even for me, I felt like I was eating very healthy before, but when I don't eat, if I'm traveling and trip them to my hotel or I can absolutely feel the difference, even if I'm trying to eat healthy at a restaurant or even making my own food. It just makes it so easy. And we even have people that buy our food every other week, and they're like, look, it keeps me on track. I know what healthy is because they eat the food and they feel the difference. We used to say a lot, it's food that feels good because you feel really good and light when you're eating it. So even though it's satiating and you feel full, it's not that heavy feeling that you eat after like a huge meal with a lot of meat and gravy and things like that. It's this really light, I just feel good. I have the right healthy energy. It's balanced throughout the day. So we see major transformation, and the education we give on the circadian rhythm, fasting, sleeping, how do you get your body into a sleep pattern, because so many people have issues with sleep. We help in a lot of those different areas that are all linked to longevity and really get their body in a rhythm. And that's where we start to also see all the changes. Wow, I feel better. I have more energy. I can actually work out. We have patients that literally can't work out, and we start with the baseline with them and get them walking and doing simple things. And by the end of the program, most people would try to keep on the program for 3 months and then move them into a maintenance program. And we see in that 3 months just incredible transformation.
Okay. So let's say if I'm a patient and I'm going to see Dr. Bob Smith, and he's like, hey, Amir, you need to lose some weight. Let's put you on this meal plan, $1,000 a month, whatever it is, which means $1,000 less I'm spending on something else.
Yep.
So now what's the experience as a patient? What's going to happen? What do I get in the mail? Who's talking to me? How's that work?
Yeah. So the first thing they get is a welcome package, and that is specific to what program the doctors recommended. So say it's a heart health program. They'll get a welcome kit that has all of the different components of our lifestyle program. So it's called Real Transformation, and that's an acronym. So it's Reset, Eat, Act, and Longevity Lifestyle. And so they'll get components of EAT. They'll get a lot of different samplings of our periphery items, so our olive oil, our coffee, our chocolate, our bars. They'll get to try some of those things. And then we'll have a component on reset. So we do a lot of mindfulness and relaxation. So they might get essential oils, a heat mat, things like that. And then the exercise side or the act side, something like a cordless jump rope, things like that. Very simple things that our workouts are tied to that someone can do in an office or at home. So people get really excited about the welcome package. It's really premium. It's definitely reminds people like they're leaving a spa with this incredible package. So that's the first thing they get. And that first week we get them enrolled in the program. We get their first dietitian consult, so they get context behind what they're doing. We get them enrolled in our digital platform. And then it starts their modules. So they get daily modules that rotate. So it's not too much. I've tried some other apps. I always try everything out there just to get exposure to what's new. And a lot of them I feel like are very intrusive on people's lives. It's too much. And we try to stay connected with the person and provide support without taking over their whole life. So they get these daily modules that might have a piece of education on their diet. It might be a cognitive behavior tip on how to shift their brains and their way of thinking about food and lifestyle. It might be a meditation or a mindfulness. So we have it very well balanced to start to change behavior in all these different areas. We have the 4 longevity pillars. It's really 5 that we are supporting people with, sleeping tips, things like that. So they start to actually do those daily modules, and then they get a private coach that is working with them on accountability. So they set their goals. They get to see a live dashboard that has real metrics behind it. We're very metrics driven. So also in that welcome kit, there is a full biomarker, an at-home biomarker test kit where they can actually see real tangible biomarkers. And we do those usually in 3-month increments. But then as they're going through the program, they're also looking at their weight, they're looking at their BMI, they're looking at their waist circumference. We can connect to pretty much any digital device if they don't have one, we provide it. So our Fitbit's the baseline, but most people already have some device, so those connect to our digital, and they can see that throughout their process. And then we're checking in regularly on the food and the food compliance, and we see really good compliance to that. So they're just getting this regular support and reinforcement of the food that's then coming. So that's the other thing. Obviously, they're getting also 4 to 5 days of food coming to their door every week, and we reset our recipes every single week, 21 different meal items or menu items that they get to pick from. Those are reset every single week, so they get fresh meals every week. And that's obviously that final reinforcement is, let's take all the effort away and make it really easy. And then on the days that they don't get the meals, they get recipes if they want to cook this way themselves. And we see that's one of the big transformations. We have a lot of testimonials from patients, and they'll say, when I went in to check in with my doctor, they were blown away at the weight I'd lost, but then my whole family did their annual check-in, and all my kids who were pre-diabetic also lost weight and had better blood work. And so we see it as this entire cascading, not just for the individual, but if they have a family around them, also they're influencing other people. So it's really creating this incredible healthy cycle, breaking some of the generational food cycles that we see in the U.S.
Awesome. And in the meantime, the doctor doesn't know how to do anything. He just said, hey, check in right here. Everything is done. And that's it.
Yep.
Awesome. So now we've got a special package here. We're going to do a pilot study. So I want to talk about this pilot study for some of these people out here that would like to have a side hustle, but they might not have a lot of time. But this might be something cool for you guys listening. So we have a pilot program where for every patient that signs up for something like this, you can get at least $200, maybe more per month as they're on this program. So imagine if you have 10 patients on there, that's $2,000 a month. You get 50 patients on there, that's $10,000 a month. And you're really not doing much of anything except making people healthy. So can you tell us a little bit about how that program works when we can roll that out?
Absolutely. So one of the things I love is that it's a subscription model. So I feel like it's a win-win for everyone involved because it's reoccurring and they stay on the program as long as they enjoy it and are seeing results. So it's like compounding interest, right? You recruit 5 people this month and they typically are staying on the program. We have really good retention. So then you recruit 5 more and now you have 10. And so every week that's continuing to increase and build on itself. And it's a really simple program. So this is ready to launch today. So what we do is we send a link to the doctors that are interested. They fill out a questionnaire that just talks a little bit about their practice and gives them it gives us the information we need to set them up as a referring practitioner. Once that happens, we then send a link, and that can either be embedded in the practitioner's website or it can be basically a QR code on coupons. And anyone that's referred from that practice then gets tied permanently to that practice if we sell anything to them. So olive oil, coffee, anything that that person does in addition to the meal program, that's being basically, there's a service fee that we give to the practitioner. That's a split pay. We don't get paid until they get paid. And we set that up with that split pay. It's start compliant. It's a very simple process. We make it as easy as possible. And then the practitioner gets a welcome package, so them and their staff can try some of our products, get excited about it. We send brochures if they want physical brochures, or e-brochures if they're fully digital. We just try to make it as easy for the practice, so all they're doing is providing the information, and then as soon as that sign up happens, we kind of can take over from there. We've designed the whole program to be completely complementary to a practice. So we're not competing, we're creating value, and if the physician is interested and they do 3-month increments, it also creates a checkpoint that the physician can say, hey, why don't you come back in and let's talk about your progress and what changes we need to make. The only time the practitioner has to be involved is if there's medication reduction needed, which is a big win for us. We love when we see that. And that does happen if you have patients that are type 2 diabetic or on heart medication. We start to see these big wins happen. So we do recommend regular check-ins, and there's a reason for it. So we see a lot of more routine checkups because patients are amped about the results they're getting. They almost want to brag to their physician, like, you've been telling me for years and finally I'm doing this. So I think that's one of the big wins as well, is we see really good retention, but we also see more routine people coming in and talking to their doctor, and they're seeing results, so they're really fired up about it.
Awesome. Well, guys, almost any doctor here can get on this side hustle, so there's really no excuse. But when the pilot program we're doing right here to doctors and practices, there we have room for about 50 people in this pilot program. So if you guys want to get on this pilot program, there's a Google form link below here. You're also going to get one in the email. We'll probably also put one in the Facebook group. Just click on that link, fill out the application, and we'll reach back out to you and, start making people healthy and create another side hustle for yourself inside of medicine. So Jennifer, thanks for sharing all this knowledge. I'm sure it's pretty eye-opening for a lot of people out there. And hopefully we get some people into the pilot program and make some people healthy.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.